Welcome back. The Australian government has declared it will maintain its policy of processing asylum seekers offshore, despite a ruling by the Papua New Guinea Supreme Court ordering the closure of the Manus Island Detention Centre. It's good morning to Immigration Minister Peter Dutton. Good morning to you, Minister.
Good morning, Carl.
Thanks for being with us at the airport. You off to PNG to sort this out?
I'm off to Sydney, actually. I'm in Melbourne at the moment, so off to Sydney. And look, Carl, I've had a discussion with the Minister in PNG, and I've had discussions with PNG government over recent months. We've been anticipating the Supreme Court decision in PNG, and we've been planning for this since late last year. So there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. People smugglers still want to put people back on boats, but the most important aspect at the moment is that we will work with the PNG government, and I've been very clear, and I repeat it again today, that the men off Manus Island will not be settling permanently in Australia, and we'll work with the PNG government to help them return home or back to third countries. We'll have a look at how we can help the PNG government.
Hang on a second. You said that you've known this for months, you've been planning this for months. The Prime Minister yesterday said there was no definitive roadmap here. So what happened? How did it take you by surprise?
I think it hasn't taken us by surprise.
So
Carl,
when you're ready?
Firstly, when the Prime Minister spoke yesterday, the PNG Prime Minister hadn't issued a statement, and we will work with the PNG government. As I've said, I've spoken to my counterpart. Labor's out there running around like chooks with their heads cut off, saying fly to PNG. Well, my counterpart's in Africa at the moment. The important thing is that we will work with the PNG government, because we have been clear both behind the scenes and publicly that people aren't going to settle in Australia. We haven't got on-water activity at the moment. We have got extra assets both on water and in the air, so we'll deal with the situation in a methodical way, and we'll talk to the PNG government about what settlement options there will be elsewhere for these people.
Gee, I tell you what, when the Prime Minister finds out you've said that you've known for months this was coming and made the announcement yesterday that you had no roadmap, it doesn't say much about your planning, doesn't say much about his planning.
Well, Carl, I just don't know how you can draw that conclusion.
Well, because you say you've known for months this ruling was coming, and yesterday he said we have no roadmap. How long does it take the Prime Minister to come up with a roadmap?
Well, the Prime Minister's been part of these discussions for a long period of time.
And how long does it take you to come up with a roadmap if you've known for months?
Well, the point that we were making yesterday was that the PNG government itself had said that they hadn't yet had time to contemplate the individual judgments that were made. Now, we respected that, and that's why it was appropriate for the Prime Minister to say what he said. But we have been talking with the General of Operation Sovereign Borders, the Secretary of my department, the Commissioner, with the Australian Federal Police. All of our agencies have been contemplating for a long period of time through the National Security Committee of Cabinet how we approach these different scenarios.
Okay, and so what happens now? I know you're short on time. What happens now with these asylum seekers on Manus Island? What happens to them?
Well, the first principle, Carl, is that the government's policy will not change. We are not going to allow people that have sought to come to our country illegally by boat to settle here permanently. We'll work with the PNG government to look through what options they have. They had already put in place a number of measures which may have dealt with some of the concerns of the Supreme Court outcome, but we are not going to change our policy at all.
What happens to the 850 asylum seekers on Manus Island, with respect? What happens to the 850 asylum seekers on Manus Island, 482 of whom are refugees, classified refugees? What happens to them when it closes, and when does it close?
Carl, like many of them before, so there are hundreds already who have returned from Manus Island back to Iran and elsewhere. Now, they've paid thousands of dollars to a people smuggler. They obviously want to come to Australia, but we've been clear that they won't. So we are negotiating with third countries. We'll continue our discussions with PNG, because the PNG government has extended an invitation for people to stay in PNG, and we'll work with other countries in the region. But we are absolutely determined to make sure that the people smugglers don't get back into business, because 1,200 people lost their lives at sea when Labor lost control of our borders, and we're just not going to return to those days.
You can't answer the question what happens. You've been told that this facility is closing, and you can't answer the question as to what happens to those 850 asylum seekers on Manus Island at the moment.
Well, Carl, I've been very clear. Some of them will return back to their country of origin because they're not owed protection. Those that are owed, as soon as that's possible, and that's an issue for the PNG government. In relation to those where they have been found to be owed protection, then PNG is able to provide settlement to those people, but those people will not be coming to Australia. and we are not going to change that policy. And I want the people smugglers in Indonesia to hear that, because there are 14,000 people who are ready to get onto boats today. There are people across Asia otherwise, including in Sri Lanka, where we turned a boat around last week, and we have extra assets on the water and in the air. And we've been working with our head of Operation Sovereign Borders and elsewhere to make sure that we continue to stare down this threat. And the Labor Party can run off
one final question before you go.
Way, but we'll deal with the situation, Carl.
One final question before we go. The Defence Minister, Marise Payne, says yesterday that the fate will be decided case by case. Scott Morrison said no one on Manus Island is coming to Australia, full stop. Which one is it?
Well, Carl, as I said yesterday, and as I've repeated very clearly today, nobody from Manus Island, not one of those men, will be permanently settling in Australia. And I've been clear about that. That's the government's position. It's the Prime Minister's position, and it won't change.
All right. Thank you for your time today. We've got to let you go. We appreciate it. Thanks, Pete.